What is up, guys? Fire here from AwesomeTunes.com. Welcome to another Unreal Engine mini course here on YouTube. As always, before we dive in and create a game, I'm going to show you the game that we're going to create. But before that, help support my channel by subscribing to the channel, liking the video, commenting, and sharing the video so that others can see. This will help the algorithm push my channel, and that way we will grow together. So now, let's dive in and see the game that we're going to create. I'm going to hit the play button. As you can see, I have a nice little spaceship. I have these meteors that are trying to kill me, and I can, bypass them, but I can also shoot them. At the top left corner, you see we have the score and we have the best score. The best score is going to be saved, and at the top right corner, you will see that I have lives. And every time I die, you will see that one life is going to be subtracted. So I'm going to die right now. Pay attention. Bam, I have died. And you see and notice that one life has been subtracted at the top right corner. In the top left corner, you see that I have the full score or the current score at 1,800 and so on and so forth. Let's try to make it 2,000. We have it. Let's die again. We died. And last time we're going to die. So we're going to see now the best score. Pay attention now. Bam, we died. You saw the nice explosion as well that we have over there. So when we die, we will display that explosion. You see that we have this nice game over panel and we have the best score over here displayed. Now, I didn't implement the restart feature. That will be your assignment because I will give you a couple of assignments inside of this game. And now if I hit the play button again, you will see that the best score is 2,130 because it is loaded. We save it and now we load it. And that's it. This is the game. Even though it looks simple, we are going to learn a lot of cool features such as saving game data, using our asteroids, or actually implementing enemies in the game and dying from them, and so on and so forth, restricting the player's movement. Now, let me just quickly show you that, what I mean. If I go out of bounds on the left side, I'm going to be spawned on the right side and I die. If I go out of bounds down, I'm going to be spawned up. There you go. And vice versa. And if I go on outside of the bounds on the left side, I will be spawned on the right, and vice versa as well. There you go. But you didn't see that because I died. But anyways, we will see that feature. We will implement it and we're going to learn a lot of cool stuff. Anyways, Fahir here from AwesomeTunes.com. Thank you for checking out this video. Again, hit the like button, comment on this video, share the video so that others can see, and subscribe to the channel. That way you will help me grow and you will support these tutorials. And yeah, other than that, I don't have anything else clever to say. Fahir here from AwesomeTunes.com. See you guys in the next video, well, in the continuation of this video. Take care. So you know the drill. After we see the game that we are going to create, we are going to start a new project. As you can see over here, Unreal Engine browser. Just open it and then click here on games and click on next. After that, we are going to select a blank project. Click on next, blueprint, maximum quality. Everything here is okay. Make sure that you don't use starter content because, well, we do not need it. Over here, just set where you want to store your project. That's all there is to it. And over here, just give it a name. And I can name it like Meteorite 2D or Meteorite Shooter or whatever. And then click on create project. And of course, we will need to wait a moment or two. And I'm going to stop the video right now and come back when the project opens. And here we are. This is our project finally. So over here, we can click on this little window, or over here, as I said, so we can click on that and we can open the content browser. Now, if you see this engine content and classes, we do not need this. So in order to remove this, you can click here on view options. So over here, and from that list, you can uncheck this show engine content and that will be removed because, again, as I said, we do not need it. Now, first things first, what I'm going to do is right click here on the content and show in Explorer. Now, this is not the first time we're doing it. This is how we import our assets, and here are the assets. So you can download these assets. Link will be in the description or below this video. You will find the link where you can download these assets. So make sure that you select all three of these materials, sprites, and texture. Just copy them, go back over here and paste them, and there you go. This is all there is to it when it comes to the assets. And of course, we can remove this window. So now we have the materials, the sprites, and the textures folders over here. What I'm also going to do is right click and create a new folder that I'm going to call maps just so that we can store our level over here. And I can say Control S to save the level in the maps folder, and over here give it a name, not new map but gameplay, and hit enter. Now before we wrap this video up, I am also going to quickly create our level. So what I'm going to do is select everything over here that you see in the world outliner. So from the atmospheric fog up to over here, and I said frog, to sphere reflection capture, and I'm going to delete all of that. And here I'm going to say yes to all, and there you go. Next, what we are going to do is over here from place actors in the search tab, I am going to filter for a blocking volume, and I'm going to put this blocking volume over here inside of our game. Now, what I'm going to do for the blocking volume is over here for the location, I'm going to set it on the X for 30, on the Y for negative 250, and on the Z axis at 40. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change here in the collision. So over here we have in the collision, for the collision precepts, invisible wall. Instead of that, I'm going to say block all. So simply select over here block all. And also what I'm going to do is over here in the brush settings, which is basically the size of our blocking volume, what I'm going to do is change over here. For the X, we're going to have 1714.86. Next, or actually 14.87, so not 6 but 0.87, there you go. For the Y, it's going to be 6.18, and as you can see already it is changing its shape. And over here, last but not least, for the Z, 1584.54. And there you go. This is going to be our blocking volume. Now, of course, we can save the current. So simply save the current, which is going to save our scene. Also, before we go, what I'm going to do is go over here inside of our sprites, and we have the stars sprite that we can drag over here. Now, for the star sprite, what I'm also going to do is I am going to set the location on the X 0, location Y is going to be -10, and the location Z is going to be 60. Also, I am going to change the scale. Now you can click on the lock icon and the scale can be 3 on all 3 axes, and there you go. Last but not least, we are also going to set the camera actor, and in order to set it, simply we are going to go here under classes and we are going to filter for camera and drop it over here. Now, this is not the first time we're doing this. We did this already numerous of times. I'm also going to set the position. So location X is going to be 0, location Y 10, location Z is 0. And on the rotation for the Z axis, we're going to set that to -90. So as you can see, I have the camera actor selected. This is what we see. But we do not want to see that. What do I mean by that? Well, over here in the camera settings, because we're going to create a 2D game, we're going to change that from perspective to orthographic. And what I'm also going to do is over here, the ortho width is going to be 768. Over here, the ortho near clip plane, we're going to leave that at 0. And basically that's it. We're not going to touch anything else on. And over here, excuse me, for the aspect ratio, I'm going to say 1. So aspect ratio, I'm going to set that bad boy at 1. Now also, if I hit the play button, this is what we see, and we do not want to see it like this. And if you followed my previous 2D game tutorials, you will know how to fix that. So if you know, try to fix it on your own. Otherwise, I'm going to proceed and fix this right now. And how that works is over here in the blueprints while you are in the level over here. So under the drop down list for the blueprints, we're going to click on open level blueprint. And from here, let me just dock this tab. And from here in the event begin play, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first get the camera actor, and you can right click and you can go here at the bottom, and actually, let me just see, was it at the bottom or at the top? So yeah, it's not. It's easier for me to do like this. I'm going to move this over here and I'm simply going to drag the camera actor over here. There you go. So this way it's easier. I forgot, was it at the bottom or at the top? I don't know, but anyways, you can also drag the camera from here to here, as you just saw. So what we are going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to get the player controller. So we have the player controller from here, and I'm going to say set from the player controller, set view target with blend. And this goes over here. There you go. And what this is going to do is we are going to set the view, or how we see the game, to our main camera or to the camera actor. So I'm going to plug in the camera actor over here. We're not going to touch the blend time or the blend function or the blah, blah, blah. We're not going to touch any of that. What I'm also going to do is from here, I'm going to say show mouse or set show mouse cursor, but this is going to go on the player controller. So we can either drag it from here, or you can just copy and paste the player controller over here. So that works as well. So you can drag the node from here to here, and then you can, just set the node to go like this. So it can go from here to here to here, or you can just copy and have the player controller over here. Just make sure that you compile and save this, because if you don't, it will not work. So compile and save that. And now if I go back in the gameplay and I hit play, so now this is how we see our level. One thing that you are probably noticing when it comes to our level is that when it comes to our star sprites, they are not glowing. So let me just stop the game. So they are not glowing. In order for them to glow, what we are going to do is select the star sprites from the world outliner, go back over here in the materials, and we're going to assign a new material, not the masked unlit sprite material, but click on the drop down list, and we want this M background. And notice now it is automatically glowing and even moving. The stars are moving. So when I hit the play button, they are moving. But one thing that we see that is different from the preview of the game that we saw a moment ago is that this background is too glowy. It's glowing like, a chandelier or whatever. You see, like a diamond. We do not want that. Now, this will also, if we don't fix this, this will also affect our spaceship. It will affect the meteors and so on and so forth, or any 2D sprite that we put in here. So in order to change this and to have the same effect like the one we had in the preview of this game, we need to go in the project settings. Now, in the project settings here under the engine, we are going to click on this rendering. It's right here. So make sure that you click on the rendering. And when you click on the rendering, you are going to, and what did I do? So when you click on the rendering, you're going to go down and you are going to find the default settings. So this is what you want, the default settings. And inside of the default settings, you need this auto exposure. So for the auto exposure, this checkbox needs to be unchecked. So make sure that you go over here, simply uncheck this checkbox. There you go. So now if I come back and hit the play button, pay attention to how our background is. It's much, you see, it's not bright. It's not glowing like like a moment ago when we tested it. And if you don't see the difference, just go back over here and make sure that you click on auto exposure and go back and test it out and see the difference. You can even compare on your computer and my video to see the difference from these. And as I said, if we don't fix this, if we didn't fix this, this will also affect your spaceship. It will affect the meteors, and we will see that when we add them in our game. I will go back and turn on that option so we can see what effect we have. The next step is to create our UI HUD. So I'm going to go over here in the content and right click and create a new folder. And this one is going to be for our blueprints. And inside of the blueprints folder, we are going to right click and create a blueprint, actually, excuse me, not a blueprint class, but user interface, and then widget blueprint. And this is going to be our BP game. So BP underscore game underscore HUD, and double click this bad boy and open it over here. So what we are going to do, First things first, I'm going to add a horizontal box. So over here from the palette, you are going to type in the search horizontal, and here it is. And I'm going to put it here under this canvas panel. Now this horizontal box over here is going to be our ship lives icons. And make sure that you compile and save that. Now, when it comes to the anchors, what we are going to do for this bad boy is I am going to set over here the anchors. So click on the drop down list. So for the X is going to be 0.83. For the Y anchor, it's going to be 0. For the X maximum is going to be 1. And for the Y maximum is going to be 0.12. So this is the anchor of the horizontal box. Now next over here, the offset left is going to be 2.4. The offset top is going to be 48. Offset right is going to be 21.92. And last but not least, offset bottom is going to be 1.13. So there you go. And now we see that it's at the top right corner. So what is the next step for us? Well, the next step is to add an image to this. So over here from the palette again, or actually here is the image. So we can just drag it over here. There you go. So this is one of our images. And I'm simply going to say over here, image. Now, when it comes to the image, over here for the brush, so click on the appearance over here, we have the brush, click on the drop down list, and over here we have the image that we can choose to be the image. So over here I'm going to click on the drop down list, and here I'm going to filter for player ship 3 blue. So this is the one that we want, player ship 3 blue. When it comes to all other things or settings over here, we're not going to touch them. Instead, what we are going to do, so I'm simply going to select this image and I'm going to change it to ship 1 actually. So ship 1, and I'm going to copy paste. So now we have the ship 2 image, and last but not least, we have the ship 3 image. So let me just compile and save that, and there you go. So you see how we have the images at the top right corner who are going to represent our lives. So moving forward, next we are going to add another horizontal box over here, horizontal, here it is, and drag it here under the canvas panel. So not as a child of the ship lives icons, instead of the child of the canvas panel. So over here, the horizontal box, this one is going to be score text. So over here, score text, and I'm going to simply say score text holder so that we don't confuse it with the actual score text. So now we are going to search for a text over here. So I'm going to say text, here it is. We want this one, so just put it over here. Now this text over here, I am going to rename it to score. So simply score so that we know that it's a score text. Also, what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this size to fill. And over here, the text is going to be score and colon and space. So score, colon, and then space. And over here for the font, we're going to click on the drop down list, Roboto, bold, and over here, the size is going to be 36. So that's all there is to it. But, excuse me for this, I did forget that we first need to edit our text over here, so the holder. So over here for the anchors, I'm going to leave everything 0, 0, 0, but for the position X, we're going to say 32. Position Y is going to be 48. Size on the X axis is going to be 371.98. And last but not least, size Y is going to be 66.59. There you go. So make sure that you compile and save that. And here it is. So here we have our score. So let me just select the score. Here it is. And what we also need is we need to have another text inside. So what we can do, I can simply copy the other text, and this one is going to be our score value, or the value that we are going to display. Now when it comes to this one, everything is the same. So we're going to have the size over here to fill, but over here the text is going to be 0 at the beginning, Roboto for the family font, typeface bold, 36 for the size, compile and save that, and there you go. So this is going to be our score text. Now what I'm also going to do is I am going to copy and paste this because we are going to have another. So this one is going to be not score text holder, but this one is going to be best score holder. There you go. And over here, first, what I'm going to do is, of course, change the position. So let me just, what do we have here? Did I copy the text? Oh, I just need to put it outside. So this needs to be outside of this text holder. So it needs to be a child of the canvas panel. So if it's not the child of the canvas panel, make sure that you drag it and put it over here as a child of the canvas panel, because now over here, what I can do is I can set the anchors and they're all going to be 0, 0, 0 for over here. But for the position X, I am going to say 36. Position Y is going to be 136. Size X is going to be 371.38. 38. And last but not least, we are going to have the size Y, 66.59. There you go. So over here for our text, this one is going to be best score. And we are going to change over here, instead of score, we're simply going to say best and then colon and then space. And last but not least, over here we have the last text, which is going to be our best score text, or simply we're going to say best score value. There you go. And we're going to set 0 in the beginning and simply compile and save this. Last but not least, we are going to have another text over here, filter for the text, put it as a child under the canvas panel. There you go. So this one is going to be our game over text. There you go. So what we are going to do with this bad boy is we're going to set the anchor at the center, which means all of these are going to be 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Position X is going to be negative 2050. Position Y is going to be negative 128. Size X is going to be 1024, and size Y is going to be 256. So this is our text over here, as you can see it. But also what I'm going to do is over here for the font, Roboto and bold, but the size is going to be 146. So over here, the size for the font, 146. There you go. And simply over here for the text block, we're going to say game over. There you go. And over here for the color, I'm going to set it to the red color. So over here for the hex linear, I'm going to copy FF and then 0, 0, 0, 0, and again FF. You can just drag above on the line for the red over here at the top. It doesn't have to be exactly as mine, especially these colors. They will not change anything in the game, but I'm just saying. So yeah, there you go. Last thing before we start to blueprint our UI widget, and I say blueprint, which is, well, the visual coding. Over here for the animation, we're going to click on plus and we're going to add a new animation. I'm going to call it game over animation. So now select the game over animation. For the track over here, we are going to select the game over text, and we want the game over text canvas panel slot. So not the game over text itself, but the game over text canvas panel slot. Make sure that you do that, because now when you select it, we are going to use the layout data. So over here, click on the track. And over here, we want the layout data offset, because now we have the left, top, right, and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do over here is from 0, I'm going to go on 1, and I'm going to click on the track to add a track over here on the left side. So click on the plus, which is this plus button for the left over here, as you can see. Click on that plus button. And now over here, it says negative 2050. We're going to say negative 512 and hit enter. So now when I compile and save that, and if I do it, so if I move the slider over here, and this is the slider, as you can see. So if I move the slider, this is going to be our game over animation. There we go. So it's simply going to go from the left, which is negative 2050, over here to the right, which is negative 512. Before we proceed over here in the graph to, code everything, I can remove all of this. We will come back to this. Let us create, so select over here game over text and make sure that you check the is variable. So make sure you click on it, and over here, make sure that you check the checkbox to be a variable. Do the same thing for the best score value. So also that needs to be a variable. Also, our score value needs to be a variable, and all three ships, they need to be a variable. So make sure for all three of these ships that you checked, or the checkbox for the is variable is checked. So now we can go over here in the graph, and the first thing that we are going to do inside of our graph is that we are going to create a custom event. So over here, right click, and I am going to say custom event. There we go. This one is going to be update lives, and it is going to have a parameter. So click on it, and over here for the inputs, we are going to click on the plus button, and parameters are, or the parameter name is going to be lives. And from here, we're going to say integer. There you go. So now what I'm going to do is drag from the lives, and I'm going to say switch, which is going to create a switch on the integer over here. And we're going to have a couple of values. So we're going to have 0, 1, 2, and 3, and we can remove the default. So right click and remove the default. So what's going to happen over here? Well, when we have the value 0, we're going to take ship 1, ship 2, and ship 3, which all three of these are the image icons of the ships. And from here, I'm going to drag, and I'm going to say set visibility. And here I am going to say hidden. And we are going to plug in all three of these. And when it's 0, that means that all three images for the lives are hidden because we don't have any lives. That means, well, they're going to be hidden. Now, what I'm going to do is copy these and paste them over here, because now I'm going to remove these two. And when we have one live, that means only ship 1 image is going to be visible. But also I'm going to paste these two here. That means that our lives, or ship 2 and 3, they are going to be hidden. But over here, as I said, it's going to be visible. So make sure that you check the visible. So over here in visibility, make sure set it to be visible, and there you go. So for this over here, that's going to be hidden. Over here, the ship 1 image is going to be visible, and ship 2 and 3, they're going to be hidden. Why? Well, because we only have one live. Just imagine that means that we are going to remove these two. They're not going to be visible. Only this one over here is going to be visible. That's all what we are doing over here. So paste again this, and if we have 2 lives, that means over here that our ship 1 and 2, they are going to be visible. And over here, it means that our ship 3, so this one over here, is going to be hidden like this. There you go. So over here, this goes just over here, just so that we can, visually make it a little bit more readable. There we go. So when we have 2 lives, when the parameter for the lives is 2, ship 1 and 2 is going to be visible, and then ship 3 is going to be hidden. And last but not least, when we have 3 of these, so I'm simply going to paste this and put this over here, this over here. When we have 3 lives, all 3 ships are going to be visible, or all 3 images of the ships are going to be visible. This is everything what we are doing. So this is not complicated, even though we cannot test it out right now. But basically, as I said, as you can see, all 3 ship images are hidden if lives are 0. If lives are 1, ship 1 is visible, ship 2 and 3 are hidden. Ship 2, if we have 2 lives, 1 and 2 are visible, 3 is hidden. And last but not least, we have 3, all 3 are visible. Moving forward, we are also going to right click over here and create another custom event. So not custom, it's custom event. There you go. And I'm going to call it game over event. And what this is going to do, it's going to take the game over text. So I'm going to take game over text. And we are from here going to say set visibility. And here plug in this. And visibility is going to be visible. Which brings me back over here. We need to go and we need to select the game over text. And over here, let me just find it. So you see here, visibility, it said that it is visible. We are going to set it to hidden. So compile and save that. So make sure in the behavior of the game over text to set the visibility to hidden, because when we start our game, we don't need to have the game over text to be visible. So there you go. So when we call the game over event, we are going to say or set the text to be visible, and then we are going to get the game over animation, and from here we're going to play the animation. So play the animation, there you go. This goes over here, it's plugged in. Target itself in animation, start time 0, number of loops to play, it's only 1, forward mode, playback speed, everything over here is as is, so we're not going to touch it. So these are the 2 custom events that we are going to use from the RUI HUD. When the player dies, we are going to display the game over event, and of course, every time the player loses a life, as we saw in the preview of the game, we are going to remove one icon from the user interface. The next step is to create our BP meteor that we are going to shoot in the game. But first, let's go back over here in our blueprints. So we're going to right click and we're going to go over here in blueprints and we are going to create an enumeration. So click over here, enumeration. This is going to be BP, or actually enum underscore. So it's underscore not plus, meteorite underscore type. So we're going to have the meteor or the meteorite or however this is pronounced. I don't know. I don't care. So let's go over here and we're going to click on this new. So over here where it says new, we're going to click it 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. And starting from the top to the bottom, we're going to have the big, not BG, but it's actually big because we're going to have the big meteor. Then we're going to have the medium meteor. And last but not least, we're going to have a small meteor, which is, well, logic. What else can I say? Next, let's go over here, go back in the gameplay and right click in the blueprints folder and create a blueprint class that's going to inherit from the actor itself. So click over here and there's going to be BP underscore meteorite. There you go. And double click this bad boy. So the first thing that we are going to do is that we are going to add over here a few variables. So 3 to be precise. The first variable is going to be the type and the type of the meteor, big, small, or medium. So we're going to click here on the type and we're going to search over here the meteorite. So meteorite, here it is. So we want this variable to be a type of enumerator that we have just created. Next, we are going to have a speed, not a it's speed. And from here, we are going to say float. And last but not least, over here, we're going to have move direction. And over here, we are going to set it to be a vector. So this is type of vector. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to select over here our BP meteorite self, and we are going to click here on add component, and we are going to attach a rotating movement component on our game object. So select it, or actually just from here add component and add our rotating movement. Now we are going to change one thing over here. You see here we have the rotation rate. For the Z, it's 180. We're going to set that back to 0. So we will calculate our own rotation rate when we start doing that in our event graph. And we are not going to use the default rotation rate or movement or whatever from the rotation movement. Let's go over here inside of our event graph, and I'm going to remove all of this. We don't need it. We are going to start with a custom event. So right click and type for custom, and here we're going to create a custom event. This is going to be set meteorite. And from here, we're going to click on it and we're going to have an input, which is going to be a parameter, and it's going to be a type of parameter, which is going to be a type of meteor. So meteorite enumeration. You get the point, the one that we have just created. So we are going to use that to know if we are going to have a big meteor, small, or medium. So what's going to happen over here is I'm going to set the type, which is this one over here that we have just created, to the parameter that we're passing over here inside of our custom event. Now, next, from there, we are going to get our rotation movement, And we are going to set the rotation rate, which is what I said a moment ago. So we're not going to use the default one. Instead, we are going to calculate our own. But how we are going to do that is we are going to split the pin structure, because we are going to rotate our spaceship only on one axis. And that's going to happen by using a random integer. So over here, I'm going to right click and we're going to say random integer. And this random integer is going to have a value of 3. And we are going to go over here. We're going to say select. And based on option 1, option 2, option 3, and option 4. And we are going to set the values. But the values are going to be determined by where we are going to plug in the return value. So I'm going to plug in the return value over here in the rotation Y pitch. So over here, if we have from the random integer, if we return 0, we are going to say the rotation rate is negative 85. If we have 1, then we're going to say rotation rate is 60. If we have 2, rotation rate is negative 55. And rotation 3 or option 3, the rotation rate is going to be 50. So as you can see, we're going to set or calculate our own random rotation based on the, as I already said, based on the random integer. Next, if you didn't notice, when we were here in the viewport, we didn't attach a paper sprite component, which is going to represent the sprite of the meteor. So we're going to do it over here. So next step is to add a paper sprite component. And before even somebody asks, like, why didn't we do it over here? Why didn't we click on add component and add the paper sprite? Is this better? I'm just showing you there are multiple ways how you can do certain things in programming or in game engines or whatever. So there are always multiple ways how you can do things. That's why I'm showing you this, because maybe you will create some sort of game where you are not going to set the sprite or add the paper sprite component to your actor right away. Instead, you're going to wait or whatever. So this is how you can do it. Next, I'm going to say over here set sprite. So now we are going to set the sprite. So which sprite or image is going to be represented by this paper sprite. Now, in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say over here random integer in range. And over here, the range is going to be from 0 up to 3. And over here, we're going to have select on it. So there you go. So we're going to have select. And what's going to happen is that I'm also going to copy and paste this, copy and paste it. So next we are going to have over here another, so excuse me, this one is actually going to be a random integer. So there you go. And the maximum over here is going to be 1, and this is going to be plugged in over here. And last but not least, again, I'm going to copy this, remove this bad boy from here, and over here, plug this one. Now, what's going to happen over here is based on the random value, we are going to determine which sprite we are going to use to represent the meteors. And in order to do that, we're going to get the type over here, and I'm going to plug in we're going to plug in this in the select. So we're going to say select. So there we go. We have the big, medium, and small. And what's going to happen, I'm going to plug the return value over here. This one goes into the big. This one goes over here into the medium. And this one goes over here into the small one. But what is the return value? Well, the return value I'm going to plug in over here. So now, actually, I will need to replug them. So there you go. Replug them now. So first, what you're going to do is you're going to plug in the return value over here so that now we will have over here the option to select our sprites. So what's going to happen over here? So we are going to have over here 2 more pins, and I'm going to move this over here. And for these 2, we're going to have 2 pins on each. So over here for the first one, we are going to say meteor big. And I typed, what did I type over here? It's meteor big. And we want the meteor big brown one. Next, I'm simply going to go over here and let me just try like this, big 2. There you go. Big 3. This one. And last but not least is big 4. And there you go. So we are going to based on the random range that we return from 0 up to 3, then we are going to select either this image or this image or this image. And you can click here on this. So let me just compile and save that. You can click here on this loop and you can go over here and inspect all these images that I have just used. I'm not going to do that. We are going to see them later on inside of our game. So there is no need to do that. Now over here, we're going to have medium. So med, MED, 1 and medium, and we're going to have the medium 3, and over here it's going to be small. Here we go, 1 and small 2. There you go. Compile and save that. So far I think everything is clear over here. So we are calling over here set meteor, setting the type based on the random integer we return here. That's going to be the rotation rate value based on here. Then we're going to add the paper sprite component. Then we're going to set the sprite, and the sprite is going to be set by, again, the random values over here that we plugged in over here. And you see this. I think everything here is clear. If something is not, make sure that you ask. Next, I'm going to set the move direction. Now, this needs to be plugged in over here. And how are we going to calculate the move direction? Well, to calculate the move direction, we are going to go over here, and I'm going to right click, and we are going to say random float in range, and I'm going to copy and paste this. For the first one over here, we are going to say negative 300 and maximum is positive 300. For the minimum, it's negative 80 for the other one, and the maximum is positive 80. Next, I'm going to right click and create a vector. So I'm going to say make vector with 3 of these plugins. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in this one in the X, and this one goes into the Y. Actually, Z, excuse me. So one in the X, one in the Z. And we're not going to touch the Y. Next, from this, I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to say minus vector. And the vector that I'm going to subtract from this is going to be get actor location, which is the current location of our spaceship. So I'm going to plug that in over there. Now, before we proceed to do more things, what I'm going to do is from here, we're going to normalize this. So normalize, there you go. And normalize, see, gets a normalized unit copy of the vector, ensuring it is safe to do so based on the length. Return 0 if the vector length is too small to safely normalize. Now, what I'm going to do is compile and save that. I'm going to copy these two and paste them over here. Now, for this one, the random range is going to be from -1 to +1, and same thing for this one. So it's -1 and +1, and we're going to create a vector from it. So we're going to say make vector. And again, this one goes in X and this one goes in Z. From here, we're going to normalize this. So we're going to say normalize, there we go. And next, what I'm going to do is I am going to use the type again. So from here, type, and we are going to have a select on it. So select options. And I'm going to plug in the return value over here so that we have options over here to select or to plug in these vectors. So this one goes over here if it's a big meteor, and these two, this one goes over here, and I'm going to click, and this one goes over here. So this goes over here. So these two are going to be plugged in into the medium and the small. And when I say these two, which is this one over here, and again, you can see this is nothing complicated. Based on the random values, we are determining the values that we are going to use for X and the Z. And then based on the meteor type, big, medium, or small, we are going to put that or plug in the corresponding values inside of the move direction. And last but not least, we are going to set the speed. And in order to set the speed, again, everything is going to be randomized. So what we are going to do, again, I'm going to right click and we are going to have random float in range. And the range this time is going to be 60 and 80. And I'm going to copy and paste this. Next over here, we're going to have 90 and 110. And last but not least, what did happen over here? So let me just go back. There you go. Last but not least, 120 and 140. So what we are going to do, again, based on the type and the select on it, get the type, and here select. This is going to be plugged in over here, which means now we have options to plug in floats. This one is going to go into the big. This one is going to go into the medium. This one is going to go into the small, and just make sure that you compile and save that. Again, we went briefly through what is happening over here. I am not going to go again through this because, as I already said, this is only choosing values based on random values. So this is nothing complicated, but if somebody doesn't understand this, please make sure to ask in the comment below. I'm going to create a comment out of this, and I'm going to say set meteorite. So set the meteorite or the meteor, however this is pronounced, I don't care. I know somebody's going to be, well, technically, I don't care. I don't care. So moving forward, we're going to right click over here and create a new custom event. And for this event, we are going to say spawn new, and here in parentheses we can say meteorite, just so that we can know it's a meteorite. But what else would be spawning? Again, click here when you select it, then click over here in the inputs for the plus button, or click on the plus button. Again, we're going to have a type, so we already have the enum meteorite parameter. If you don't have it by any chance, make sure that you select it from the list, because that's the type we are going to have. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in a for loop. So over here we have the for loop, and we are going to loop how many times? Well, I can remove this. I double clicked on the for loop. We're going to loop one time, but you can also use an index for that. If, for example, you want to create multiple meteors, that's why I use the for loop. We can also do it without it. But as I said, you can use an index that you're going to use over here that you can change or whatever. So here in the loop body, we're going to say spawn actor from class. And you can assume that we're going to spawn the BP meteorite. There you go. Yeah, BP meteorite. I'm just kidding. But anyways, right click over here. And now we're going to say get actor location. And simply plug it in over here into the transform. It is going to do our own conversions. You can see over here, converts a vector to a transform, uses vector as location, blah, blah, blah. Compile and save that. This is going to set the location for our meteor. Next, we are going to say set the type. And from here, we are going to, actually what I'm going to do is from here, from the return value, I'm going to set the type like this. So there you go. And this goes over here like this. This goes over here. What I'm also going to do, I'm going to double click this, move this over here, double click this, move this over here, because we will need it one more time. But what I'm also going to do is from here, I'm going to drag a node and release over here. And I'm going to click add a reroute node, as you saw. And from this reroute node, I'm going to plug it in over here and click on the line again, just so that I can, form it like this so that we can see what is going on, what is happening. You get the point. Why did I add this over here? Well, because I'm also going to use over here another node, which is going to be set meteorite, which is the one that we have just created over here, as you can see. So this goes over here and this goes over here. I'm going to double click and this goes over here again like this. And last but not least, from here, drag and plug in the meteor type value. So what's happening over here is using a loop. We are going to loop multiple times, as you can see. So we're going to loop. As I said, you can use an index, but I said over here 1. So we're going to loop one time, which means we're going to spawn one meteor type actor. From here, when we spawn it, we are going to determine its type by using the type, which is the parameter. After that, from the spawn meteor, and we are setting to the type of the spawn meteor because the return type over here is the meteor itself. Again, from there, we are going to call set meteor because we set the type over here, which is based on the type going to do all of the things that we said or explained above. So next, I'm going to right click over here and create a comment section out of it. And there's going to be spawn new meteorite. There you go. Make sure that we compile and save that. Next, we are going to right click over here and we are going to create a custom event. Now, this custom event is going to be called destroy. So destroy. Unfortunately, we will not be able to continue to code this custom event. The reason for that is because we will need our game mode base. And if we don't have our game mode base, which we will later on create because we need to implement a few functions inside that we are going to use over here. So I'm just going to declare it over here, and later on we are going to come back and create the destroy function. So don't worry about that. Next, I'm going to right click and I'm going to filter for the tick event. So over here for the tick event, I'm going to move this a little bit down. For the tick event, I'm going to say add actor world offset, which is going to move the actor. Now, this is what we are going to use to move our actor. Now, in order to move him, we need a speed, and we need to multiply the delta seconds, so multiplied with the float. And that float is going to be the speed, so multiplying that with delta seconds to make it smoother. After that, we're going to use that value and multiply it. So move this a little bit down and multiply that value with the move direction. So over here, multiply with float, and that float value is this over here. And after we do that, the returning vector is going to be put over here inside of our add actor world offset. So this is to move the actor. We can create a comment over here, move the actor or move the meteor in the tick event. There you go. And make sure that you compile and save that. Now, if I were to go over here in the gameplay and from blueprints, I drag over here our BP meteor and I set his position to 0, 0, 0, which is the center, nothing's going to happen. If I hit the play button, we don't see the meteor, nothing is happening. We can test this by going over here below and right click and use our begin play event, that is, and from it we can call set the meteorite. So when we call the set the meteor, and you can set it to any type you want, so you can set it to big, to medium, whatnot. So we can now go back and test it out. So if I hit the play button, there you go. We see the big meteor. There you go. So let's try again to set the medium one. Compile and save that gameplay and hit the play button. Now we have the medium one, and you can see based on the random values, he is going outside. Now, one thing that I want to notice to tell you is notice over here. Look at the meteor. Where is it going? It's going over there, yada, yada, yada. And infinitely, it's going to go over there. So we didn't implement anything to actually turn it off. Now, what you can do is select this BP meteor, this top one, and you can go over here where it says actor. And you have something called initial lifespan. If you hover over, it will say how long this actor lives before dying. 0 is forever. And you can see it's set to 0. We can set it to 25 seconds. So every one of these meteors will die after 25 seconds. Let's also test over here our small one. So compile and save that. Let's go back over here and hit the play button. You see, we also have the small meteor. So based on the type we pass over here, we will spawn a meteor. Now, one thing that it's important to notice is I'm going to break the link. This over here is only for testing purposes. So for testing purposes only. Which means when we start our game, you need to break this link, because we are not going to use it here. Instead, we are going to call it from the game mode blueprint. And again, you saw that. So you saw that we're not using spawn meteor. If we try to use that, we will create an infinite loop and our game will crash, because every new meteor that's going to be spawned, it will call this spawn new and it will create a new meteor and yada, yada, yada. So instead of that, we use this over here. And you can test it out by trying to use this spawn new meteor. I don't care. I mean, just test it out and you will see. I say I don't care because I will not test it out. I know how it works. But for you to see, test it out. So compile and save that. And you saw that we are creating a movement direction based on these random values. Again, if something is not clear over here, just make sure you ask in the comment below, but I believe everything should be clear because these are just basic stuff based on the random values. We are setting other values for the speed and so on and so forth. Moving forward, we are going to right click over here in the blueprints folder, create a blueprint class that's inheriting from the actor, and this one is going to be BP underscore projectile. So projectile. And we're going to use this, as you can assume. So I'm going to close here the gameplay over here, the HUD, the enumerator. I'm going to close it. Even the meteor, we can come back later to it. But you can assume that we are going to use this to, this is going to be the bullet from Spaceship. So moving forward over here in add component, we are going to filter for sprite and we want the paper sprite. And I'm going to make this a default scene root and I'm going to click on to rename it. This is going to be the laser sprite. There you go. Make sure that you compile and save that. Next, over here in the sprite source, we're going to click on the drop down list and filter for the laser. And we want the laser blue 16. So this is our sprite. There you go. Walla, 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 or yada, yada, yada. Now, next over here inside of our collision, instead of block all dynamic, we are going to set to overlap all. So it's overlap all, compile and save that. Last but not least, we are going to click on add component and add over here projectile movement. So click on it and we are going to add the projectile movement. The projectile movement is actually going to be, we're going to use that to move the projectile. Instead of us creating the code that's going to move the projectile, we're just going to use the projectile movement. And for that over here, we first need to set the projectile gravity. So this over here, projectile gravity scale, it needs to go to 0. And the reason for that is because we don't want gravity. If it has gravity, it will start to fall down. Next, we have the movement, which is over here on the velocity. And we're going to set that on the z-axis over here. So from 0, it's going to go on 800. So we're going to move it on the z-axis and make sure that you compile and save that. Now, the next step for us is to go over here in the event graph. And what I'm going to do is in the begin overlap. So over here, we don't need the tick event because, as I said, we're going to move the projectile with the projectile movement. Now over here in the actor begin overlap, if we collide with the meteor, so we're going to say cast to BP meteorite, and we're going to cast the other actor, meaning the actor we have collided with. If he is the meteor, what we are going to do is from here, we're going to say set collision enabled on the laser sprite. So take the laser sprite, and here I'm going to say set collision enabled, just so in case we don't hit multiple sprites before our laser gets destroyed. So over here we're going to say no collision. Next, from here we are going to drag a node, and I'm going to set over here add a reroute node, and from here I'm going to call the destroy. So destroy, here it is. And this is the custom event that we have created, but we still didn't code, if you remember, because as we said, we need our gameplay in order for that to be coded. So after this, we are going to call delay function, which is going to delay the number of seconds that we specify over here, and it's going to be 0.05. And after that, we're going to call destroy actor, which is going to destroy this actor. And this actor is our projectile. So again, over here, what's going to happen is we're going to test if we are colliding with a meteorite. If that is true, disable the collision for the laser sprite, then call the destroy, which is this one over here. Here it is. As I said, we created it, but we didn't code it. So call the destroy on the meteorite, delay and destroy the laser. Now this we can test out. So what I can do is I can take the projectile and put it over here. There you go. So this is our projectile. And let me just put him on 0, 0, 0. I can possibly also set him over here, for example. And if I hit the play button, you saw the projectile. And if I go over here, where is the projectile? Over there. You can see it. It's over there. What we need to do with the projectile is the same thing we did with the meteor. We need to lower the lifespan of it. But what we can do, instead of selecting the actor and going over here and setting the initial lifespan, we can do that as well. That we can do it. But there is another way, which is over here. We can go in the begin play, and I can do something like this. I can copy these two and I can paste them over here. I can plug this in over here like this. And the duration can be, I don't know, 1.5 seconds. So we can wait 1.5 seconds and we can destroy the laser afterwards. So going back over here in the gameplay, hit the play button. You see the laser went away. If I go over here, well, it's now destroyed. We cannot see it because it is destroyed after 1.5 seconds. So as you can see, there are multiple ways in programming how you can solve the same problem. So you have one problem, you can solve it multiple ways, and this is another way how we can use delay to actually disable or deactivate or destroy our actor. Moving forward, let us go back over here, and now we are going to create our spaceship. So right click, blueprint class, actor, BP underscore spaceship. There you go. Double click it and open it over here. First, we are going to filter here for that component, which is going to be paper sprite. Here it is. Now the paper sprite is going to be the default scene root. Compile and save that, select it. For the source sprite, we are going to filter for ship 3. Here it is, ship 3 blue. This is the one that we want, so make sure you compile and save that. Over here for the collision, we have block all dynamic. We want to overlap all so that we can collide with everything. So overlap all, that's all there is to it at the moment. Next, we are going to attach a paper flip book. So over here, select the sprite, add component. We're going to say paper flip book. There you go. And it's going to be our fire 1. Make sure you compile and save that. So what's gonna happen with the fire is I am going to select over here. The source is going to be fire. There it is. This one over here, as you can see. So I'm going to select it. And for the transform, the location X is going to be negative 7.28.